Are you proud of your story? Have you made peace with the parts of your life story that are most difficult, traumatic, and painful? Do you think that your story, when you tell your story, you could help other people cope with, heal from, deal with the types of things that you've perhaps overcome? Well, tonight we're going to talk about the power of story and the power of sharing your story and finding the power in the pain of whatever has been in your story. Welcome to Boss Up Goddess. I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I go live every night to share tips that can help you live bigger, better, and bolder. Some nights I have amazing, wise women who share their guidance to help us all live better and bigger. Sometimes I go solo. And tonight I'm going solo here with you to talk about the power of your story. Tomorrow, my sister Catherine Greenspan, my mother Judge Marylin Atkins, and I are going to be on a wonderful show that is going to explore our identities, our story, and our experience and our message from being in an interracial family. I've said many times on the show, my family story is that back in the 60s, my father was a Roman Catholic priest, not allowed to marry. My mother was 25 years younger than him, Black and Italian. My father wanted to leave the church and have a family, so he left the church, and a year later, he married my mother, 25 years younger, Black. And then the fact that they left the church was a huge scandal. The bishop told them they were going to hell. The families had problems with the situation for a while. Thankfully, that all healed later. But my father and my mother were extremely courageous because they were in love. And then Catherine and I came along a short time after. And people always say, well, what about the children in interracial families? Because mixed race children have historically been deemed the quote, tragic mulatto, where you're caught in between black and white. You're too black to be white or too white to be black. And you're ostracized, rejected. There's all these terrible stereotypes. Well, Catherine and I turned out just fine. So much so that we decided to write books about it. And my message tonight is for you to boss up, goddess, own your story, celebrate your story, share your story, because your story can help others who are going through exactly what you may have overcome and healed from to also triumph from that challenge. So, Catherine and I started our company 5 years ago. We're about to publish book number 28 next week. And it started because we wanted to write ourselves into American literature. We, as children, didn't know any other mixed race children who were like us. There was no Barack Obama, Mariah Carey, Tiger Woods, or the long list of mixed race people that you can look up to today and say, wow, they're amazing. I can be like them. We had each other, of course, which was a tremendous blessing and a very loving, supportive household. But we didn't see ourselves in other people. We didn't see ourselves in movies, and we didn't see ourselves in books. So when we got old enough, as English majors at the University of Michigan, and then Catherine went to University of San Francisco to get a master's in writing, and I went to Columbia University and got a master's in journalism. We embarked on writing careers, and we both decided to write ourselves into American literature by telling our stories from our unique perspective of as mixed race kids growing up in the 70s and the 80s, having parents who were trailblazers, pioneers, renegades, some might say, who were all doing it in the name of love. And so Catherine wrote her books, young adult novels. I wrote my memoir and 3 romantic thriller novels that told stories about mixed race characters who were making a positive impact on race relations in the world. And our mother, who became chief judge of Detroit's 36th District Court, she wrote her memoir after she retired in 2012. And so she wrote The Triumph of Rosemary. This is her in her judge robe. And then this is her as a baby. Her mother was Italian and her father was Black. 1946, the Italian family said there will be no N words. They said the word in this family. So my mother was put in foster care and adopted by a Black family. But that was a blessing and a curse because my adopted grandmother was very abusive, physically, emotionally, psychologically. So my mother survived. She was a really good student, and then she grew up and married my father, who was a priest. This is him in his collar. And then we came along, Catherine and I. And then our father would journal at the dining room table every night. So he taught us this passion for writing, while our mother actually went to law school at night when we were in middle school and starting when we were in elementary school. And so we saw her working really hard. She worked full time during the day, went to law school at night. And then our father took care of dinner. He drove us to piano lessons, ski lessons, ice skating, swim lessons, camping on the weekends so she could study. And they showed us this beautiful, beautiful teamwork that enabled them to achieve raising a stable, happy, healthy family at the same time striving for the goal of our mother becoming a lawyer. She always says she didn't become a lawyer to save the world. She became a lawyer to save her family because she realized that because our father was so much older and he worked for the state of Michigan, great job, but not a millionaire, it would be on her to put us through college because he would be retiring at the same time we would be graduating from high school. So our mother became a lawyer. She passed the bar the first time around, and then she became chief judge. Our father didn't get to see her be a judge, but he did see her become a lawyer, which was amazing. And so the point is that our mother shares that amazing story in her book. It's called The Triumph of Rosemary, a memoir, because her birth name was Rosemary. So think about it. She's a biracial foster child in 1946. She could have become any kind of statistic, but she became a leader in her field, highly respected judge, celebrated for her integrity and um, wonderful, caring personality. And our father, amazing man. He died in 1990, um, but he was an amazing man who taught us all the important values that Catherine and I live by today. So my point is that our mother wrote the story because she owns it. She healed from the trauma of the abuse by her mother. And she talks about taking care of her mother in her later years before our grandmother died with a spirit of forgiveness and caring. So she exemplifies triumph over racism, abuse, and a multitude of other challenges that she owns her story. She wrote her story, and we're in the process of actually having this made into a documentary film. So we're very excited about that. And so we're very proud that our mother had the courage to share her story because it's pretty scary to share your story, especially when you're exposing challenging, painful things about your life that people don't even know about. Even people you grew up with, they have no idea. So that is really important because she's going to be talking about these issues tomorrow on Intercultural Spark. Deanna Schoss is going to interview us on her show. She's based in Chicago and it's going to be live on YouTube and Facebook at the same time. And it's going to be at 11 Eastern, which is 10 Central, and earlier than that in the Pacific time zone. So 11 Eastern time, Thursday, March 4th, YouTube or Facebook, you can please tune in. I'll put the links in the description box here because our mother, of course, is the reason that we're here. So everything starts with her story. But then Catherine went on to write 3 young adult novels about a biracial girl named Veronica because she drew from our childhood experience of stuff kids would say to us. Um, Veronica, I heard your mom's Black. So that's something a boy said to her in school, and it inspired her to write the first book in the Veronica series. And then the next book is Veronica Talks to Boys. And then the next one is Raise Home Veronica. So they all have a theme of a biracial girl trying to just have fun with her friends and do well in school and discover boys. But the world is so obsessed with race, asking her these questions and making her question, where does she fit in, if she fits in at all? And so it's really powerful. And the amazing thing is that girls of all backgrounds have read these books and they've written letters to Catherine saying, wow, I could really relate because it's all about our desire for belonging, our desire to have an identity that is celebrated, our desire to feel good about who we are and what we bring to the world. And so that is what owning your story is all about. No matter what age you are, whether you're 50, 25, 15, or 85, we all have to own our story, or younger or older than any of those numbers. But a lot of times we don't own our stories. We have shame, we have guilt, we have imposter syndrome, we have pain of not wanting to face certain things. So we just don't even bring it up or explore it or try to heal it. And so my book, well, I've written lots of books, but most recently, my memoir is God's Answer is No, KNOW, Lessons from a Spiritual Life. And I was so grateful. One of my dear friends said, I wrote this from a perspective of being healed. I talk about racism. I talk about sexism. I talk about abuse. I talk about my weight challenges that I've had, really messed up relationship with food and fat, bulimia, depression, thoughts of suicide. I talk about all that, but I wrote it from a point of healing, being healed, which means I own my story. I'm like, yes, this happened to me. And yes, I did this, but I've healed and released it. And that creates a spaciousness within yourself when you do that work. When you release the trauma, you release the pain, you release the shame, guilt, regret, and it opens you up to the newness, the adventure, the power of a better present moment and future. And that's where I am now. And it feels so, so good. So, my message again is I own my story. I own the good. I own the bad. I own the parts that I'm not proud of. And I proclaim it to the world because you know what? When I share, just like my mother shares her triumph, and Catherine shares her stories of this spunky little girl who just does her thing despite all this bizarreness in the world about race. When you show that you can overcome the challenges in your story, you are inspiring other people that they too can do the same. I believe if you want to boss up and be a goddess, it is our obligation to share this wisdom with each other to show that, yes, you can make it. You can make it little girl, you can make it adolescent, you can make it teenager, young lady, millennial, senior citizen, midlife person, elderly, you can do it no matter where you are, what you're doing. I believe it's our obligation to share our stories. So, my message to you is if you truly want to boss up and be a goddess, which means empowered in mind, body, and spirit, making a powerful impact, positive influence on people everywhere, especially girls, teens, women, your story is your teaching tool. The pain is the source of power when you can overcome it, heal from it, release from, learn from it, and share those lessons from a spiritual life. I'm not saying I'm perfect. I'm still learning. I'm still growing. But all three of us bossed up and told our stories to the world. And tomorrow we get to share it in this amazing interview with Deanna Schoss on Intercultural Spark, live on Facebook, live on YouTube at 11 a.m. Central Time. 11 a.m. Central Time. Please check us out. The links will be down here in the description box. We are going to have a really powerful conversation about 2 generations of a multiracial family. I'm so excited to talk about this topic. It's one of my favorite topics because we exemplify the love. Yes, there were challenges. Yes, Catherine and I dealt with certain stuff, but it strengthened us. And guess what? I started talking about how we started our own company to write ourselves into American literature and publish our own books. Well, we organically have attracted other authors with against the odds success stories that exemplify inclusion, diversity, overcoming racism, overcoming discrimination, sexism, and all kinds of other challenges. And so I want you to please consider the idea of writing your own story. Whether you plan to ever publish it or not, commit it to words, because let me share one thing that happens while you're writing. While you're writing your story, you face different issues and explore yourself. And as a result of looking at that, it's like looking in the mirror of your past, present, and your future, because it shows you what you've dealt with, how you've overcome, what you're still dealing with now, and what you want for the future. It's an amazing sort of check-in in a really big way to see, where are you now? What do you want? What do you want that you don't have yet? What have you wasted time on? What can you release from the past that is no longer serving you? How can you shift into a more powerful future to really boss up to yourself and the world? So powerful. So that was a surprise lesson that I learned while writing my memoir, because I realized, for example, how much time and energy I had wasted on my issues with food and fat and obsessing about my size, or whether I was skinny or fat, or whether I was overeating or starving myself or abusing myself with laxatives or doing all kinds of stuff. I was so angry at myself for wasting all that time. I had to literally sit down and forgive myself and write out. But that practice of forgiveness expanded as I forgave myself for the time and energy that I felt I had wasted on the food challenge and the struggle with weight, body image, self-esteem that results from that. It evolved, expanded into this self-forgiveness afternoon where I just sat and wrote out everything that I forgive myself for. And forgiveness is an inside job. It's releasing everything. It doesn't matter who did what. No, it doesn't matter. It's all about you. It's about you releasing the pain, you releasing the anger, resentment, guilt, shame. And if it's about yourself, okay, great, release it. And that was so powerful because, again, it resulted in, it's like cleaning out a closet that's full of junk, and you clean out the closet and suddenly you open it, it's like all this space. It's so wonderful. And it was a physical sensation for me. It was like a lightness and this openness, like spaciousness within my mind and body. It was bizarre, but it only came after I did that work of releasing the literal baggage, the weight of the past, regret, shame, guilt of whatever. And then it opened me up. And now my creativity, my writing, everything is so new and different. And it opens up space for amazing people and opportunities to show up in your life and to discover new things about yourself. It's amazing. Okay. So I challenge you to consider writing your story. And then you can take it to the next level and share it. Share your story. I think every woman should boss up and write her book. You should write a book as a testimony that you're here, you did amazing things, you survived some difficult things, and you have a message. There is a message in your mess. The mess is the message. I'm sure you've heard that before. The mess is the message. I took the mess of the things I listed. My sister took the mess of kids saying stuff and, you look like you stuck your finger in a light socket because we had super frizzy hair when we were younger. My mother took the mess of abuse, racism, and everything else, the church's damnation, and it's her message about love is all that really matters, and achieving something, reaching your goals, sacrificing for the common good of the family, achieving those goals, and being a positive, powerful force in the world. She oversaw 35 judges, and it was one of the it was one of the busiest municipal courts, still is, in the country. So very proud of our mother, Judge Marylin Atkins, my sister, Catherine Greenspan, and myself, Elizabeth Ann Atkins. Please check us out tomorrow, Thursday, March 4th, live here on YouTube and on Facebook at the same time as Deanna Shoss of Intercultural Spark interviews us as two generations of a multicultural, multiracial family. Let me just add that our father also was Native American and he was president of the Saginaw Valley Indian Association. So he would take us to, we called them Indian meetings back in the 70s, where there were meetings, gatherings, there were powwows, they were doing service things in the community. It was beautiful and amazing. And then we also lived in Oak Park, Michigan, which was very multicultural. We had neighbors who were Orthodox Jewish families. We had neighbors who were survivors of the Holocaust, so we learned firsthand about the horrors of the Holocaust. We had neighbors who were immigrants from Russia, and this was during the Cold War. So we learned about the whole Cold War experience from real people, not the stereotypes. We had neighbors who were from Iraq. They were Chaldean, which means Christian, and they had fled the persecution in their country and come to the United States to be free and live as they want as Catholics. We had neighbors who were white, Black, Asian, Indian. It was beautiful. Many Jewish friends I had in school, and I learned about Passover and bar mitzvahs and bat mitzvahs and Hanukkah. So it was the most amazing experience to have such a multicultural upbringing, where our parents deliberately selected a community that was so diverse for us to grow up in. And our father, even though he was a Roman Catholic priest, wore a Jewish Star of David made of jade around his neck and a big belt buckle that was made of turquoise and sterling silver that was a thunderbird symbolizing his Native American heritage with this really ornate leather belt. So we were just everybody and everything embodied in our family, and it was amazing. And it was all about love. And you know what? As a deeply spiritual person, love is about spirit, and spirit is invisible. Spirit has no color. Spirit has no national origin. Spirit has no religion. Spirit has no gender. Spirit has no physical attributes. It is energy, and that energy is love. And that energy enables you to heal. That's why I say the exercise of writing your book, exploring your story in an intimate manner all by yourself is so healing. It enables you to release the pain, the trauma, the guilt, the shame, the regret. So you can step forward fearlessly, boss up, and be the goddess that you're meant to be in mind, body, and spirit, being a powerful and positive influence on the world. And when you have it all written up in a book, look out. You are not only going to be blessing people with this testimony that can help them find healing, empowerment, and courage to heal their own stories and step forward fearlessly, but you also will be blessed for giving something so positive to the world. And those blessings could come as having a bestseller and being financially compensated for it, having a movie deal. Those blessings can also come in other forms. Just knowing. A few weeks ago, Catherine and I, we had a party to celebrate our 5-year anniversary in business this last month. And she said on the call, when we had all these wonderful people across America and the world joining us to celebrate on Zoom, she said of the 28 books that we've published, people around the world read our books. We never know who they are, but we do know that because our books are mostly about against the odds success stories with messages of inspiration and motivation, we do know that we're making a positive impact on people everywhere, even though we have no idea who they are and we may never know. That is the power of putting your story in a book. I'm a book coach. If you need help, I'd love to help you. You can go to the twosisterswriting.com website and sign up and have a session with me. I also have a 6-month book coaching program that's going on right now. I can put some links in the description box. Or if you never publish your story, that's fine. Or if you work with another coach or get a book deal, whatever route you take, just boss up, goddess, and write your book. After you check us out tomorrow on Intercultural Spark, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live here on YouTube and Facebook as I, my sister Catherine Greenspan, our mother Judge Marylin Atkins, all of us join host Deanna Schaas on Intercultural Spark to talk about our books and how they tell the story of 2 generations of a multiracial, interracial, multicultural family. I hope you'll join us. Meanwhile, if you're finding value in my show, Boss Up Goddess, please do hit that red subscribe button. It really helps us out and it helps more people learn all the great stuff that we're doing here on the channel. So please also hit the thumbs up, like this video if you found that it helped you. And please drop a comment if you have any questions about what I talked about today. Please check out the stuff I'm putting in the description box about the links so you can watch tomorrow live. It's going to be amazing. And I'll also put some information about our books in case you're interested in getting our books, because as I said, our Mother's movie is going to be developed into a documentary film. And I envision Catherine's series as a series as well, because it's for young adults and it's very unique. There's not much written for in the young adult genre for mixed race girls. And my book, God's Answer is No, Lessons from a Spiritual Life. I teach meditation. In fact, in 30 minutes from now, I'm going to be leading people across the country in a guided meditation. It's all about inner peace, finding that inner peace so you can feel empowered to do great things in your life and for the world. Okay, I'm Elizabeth Ann Atkins, and I want you to boss up, goddess. You have the power. I'll see you next time.